It was such a great group, very talented, very gung-ho, and but the whole spirit of the movie was very different with the power loader and all those things, and it wasn't as creepy. It was more, you know, aerobic. But it was a good group. We had a lot of fun, and I got to meet Carrie Henn, and that was great working with her.
Carrie Henn, who played Newt, and Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, were the final two actors that were involved in almost all of the visual effects photography. The blue screen, the front screen projection. And so it really was down to those two characters in the final weeks of the shoot.
She and I really bonded because everyone left us, and we used to always joke and say we were the orphans nobody wanted. You know, we were left there, they did all the parts that everyone was there, and then they left and we did all of our parts for a couple months after that. And she would do different things with me, and like our dressing rooms were right next door to each other. And her husband would come and visit every once in a while. I knew she would be sad when he left, and so I'd bring her flowers to work. For me, it wasn't as big a deal. I just didn't see my family every single day. I just would see them on the weekends. And sometimes my brother was allowed to have off of school for a week, and he'd come up and spend time on the set.
There was an incredible bond by the end of the film between Sigourney and Carrie, especially given that Carrie had no experience as an actor prior to doing Aliens. She hadn't even, from my recollection, appeared in a school play, and yet she was so perfect as Newt.
I remember one scene, and it was at the beginning when Sigourney first found me, and I'm in my little nest, as they called it, and I had all this stuff around me and everything. And that was the only scene. I remember Chris was on set at the time, and James Cameron would not let my brother or my mom anywhere near it because my mom was always there where I could see her, and she wasn't allowed to be there because I had to feel like I had no one. And it was amazing how I did feel that way just because knowing my mom wasn't just right there. They were offset, and they were allowed to come on after that. But I remember I was kind of upset.
We'll be all right now. Easy. Easy.
The cocoon part, that was probably one of the most tedious parts of filming that we had. It was all made out of fiberglass, and we had to do everything except the actual breaking apart of it over and over and over again, and all they had was this little tiny hole, and I'd have to crawl through the hole, and there was like a wooden stool covered with the fiberglass, and I'd have to sit on that, and I couldn't actually rest myself, like my feet on any part of it, because it might break it, and they couldn't redo it again exactly how it was. So I'd have to sit there, and then I'd crawl out, and that took days, and with all the slime, which took forever to clean off. It was horrible. And then Sigourney, when she actually had to rip it off, she had to do it just right so that we got it done right the first time, and she cut her hands all up with the fiberglass and everything. It was really bad.
Grab onto me! Hold on! Newt! God! Newt!
That was another scene that kind of lasted forever. Actually going down the chute part was the coolest. They had made a sign and they hung it on the chute that said, adults 1 pound, children 50p. And I would love just when I'd hang up the top and then I'd get to go down. It was this huge, like 3-story chute, and it had like a little bend in it and had a big old mat at the bottom. So sometimes I would kind of mess up a little bit on purpose so that I could go down and come right back up and try it again, until James Cameron caught on to that and said, we really have to get going with this scene. And then the water was a completely different time. And that was pretty bad just because the first assistant director and I were really close, and he didn't want the water to be cold. And so they filled it up the night before, and he made someone stay on set 24 hours to make sure it stayed warm. Only it was too warm. So I'd be in it, and I could only stay in it for a certain amount of time because it was so hot. I'd have to get back out and then get back in.
She really had to show fear, especially in the scene when the alien rises up. And she was completely convincing. We also wanted to make sure that psychologically, considering this is a pretty dark and scary movie, we didn't have CGI characters that were added in later on. I mean, she was in there in pretty terrifying situations. We had long discussions with her parents and with her about whether or not she would in any way be traumatized by the experience. And she was perfectly fine, and she realized it was all make-believe.
Part of the thing was James Cameron said I had to watch Alien before we did anything to do with aliens as far as filming. And so I watched it, but I think I was 8 at the time, I didn't think it was scary. I thought it was funny. I was laughing at it the whole time.
Here we go. Mike, heavy side, stop telling stories and just pay attention. Pull the pin. Hold that smoke. Close the doors, please. Here we go, and roll! Camera!
4 1 2 take 1, AMD cameras. Second clap after full stop.
And action!
I was a big gun control person, and when I read Aliens again, I got it while I was shooting 2 other films, so I read it very quickly, and I have this bad tendency to skip stage directions. So it wasn't till suddenly I get on the set one day and I get handed this huge gun, and everyone has these huge guns, and I said, where did these guns come from? And Jim Cameron looked at me like, what? And he said, didn't you read the script? I said, yeah, but I don't remember. And of course, there's this long stage direction where it goes into detail about all the gun things, and that was tough, because I think that real strength and unpredictability comes from not having an obvious weapon.
Sigourney, well, so what can one say? I mean, I did Sigourney on the film. I mean, totally, it's her character. I mean, the film revolves around her. That's really what was great to work with her on, because, she is so dedicated to this role. Although it's never really established, in so many ways she is the boss. I mean, because, some of the male characters may not feel that, but at the end of the day, that ultimately, this woman means business, and I think she really enjoys that aspect of this role.
Okay, and Carrie, when I say Queen and Sigourney turns, you're going to turn and look this way too, okay?
Full wide right, you ready? Okay.
Well, acting, that's still, I think, the toughest thing I've ever had to do.
Right, lift her up, let's go.
Because we were shooting at this abandoned power plant, and it was freezing cold, and of course everything had to be watered down. So once you had Newt in one hand and your flamethrower, machine gun, rocket launcher in the other, and then you had to skittle down these kind of greasy, wet stairs, and it was freezing there. It was the middle of winter. And that was a week, and then we got 2 weeks actually, but that was something. That was our Waterloo.
Step back just a little bit, Sigourney.
Here we go, stand by on the effects.
Another step, Sigourney. Once you're square away.
Will you stop reveling back there? Give us a break, will you? For God's sake. Here we go, quiet please. Okay, roll camera.
1:50, take 3.
Start the effects.
Put under pressure physically as well as emotionally. She has to carry Carrie. It's quite a weight with a pulse gun and a flamethrower, which is full and alive. She must keep her back and her body supple and warm. In this, it's very cold. We're standing around here with jumpers and everything on, and they have to be practically stripped with like t-shirts on. And you get very cold, your body muscles start tensing up, and then if you put weight on one side, you could tear a muscle. And we don't want that. And she is very good. Even during the day, she keeps warm. and keeps exercising.
Start the effects!
It was a hard shoot for Sigourney. Sigourney really, really worked awfully hard on that. And stuff like just little things like where she's carrying Newt around a lot, and to realize that it's going to be tough on Sigourney to be able to carry this child throughout all these shots. They make up like a little Newt doll that just kind of clung onto her, that looked just like her, but was just kind of this styrofoam. I don't know what it was. To know that kind of stuff and to see that stuff ahead of time.
I actually had to do a full body cast. I had a double who was about the same size as me, and I think they did her legs, but I actually had to do the body part and the face part. I didn't mind the top body part, but when they did my face, I got very claustrophobic. They put like this jelly type stuff on my face, and then they put the mask over the top of it, and all I could breathe out of was 2 straws out of my nose. And when they were trying to take it off, they were having some problems, and I was kind of panicking a little bit. Am I gonna have to have this on forever? So it was kind of weird and kind of scary and all that kind of stuff, but it was really cool in the end to see how much this dummy did look like me. After the cocoon, when Sigourney comes and saves me and we're running around and all that kind of stuff, and we end up with the queen alien in front of us and all the eggs, I just remember that took forever. It seemed like it took forever. I don't know if it actually did, but it took a long time, and it was a lot of smoke and all that kind of stuff, just a lot of special effects at one time that never all seemed to be right at the same time.
She's 9. 9 is it's a whole person there, and I try to be there for her as a fellow actor just the way I would anyone. Like yesterday, we were doing a lot of shooting and everything, and I thought she showed a lot of guts because it's a much more secure feeling to be the one with the gun. I mean, just technically, because you know what's going on. You know the first time something can go wrong. But it's harder to sort of stand next to someone who's throwing flames out and everything. And I thought she was, actually it was good because I did feel she trusted me. And absolutely she could, because if anything had gone wrong, I think my first thought would have been, not the crew as much as her, I mean, we're all adults. We've been on film sets before, but especially because this is all new to her,
I think everyone was really happy to see the film wind down. It had been incredibly demanding. And certainly given that in England there was a shorter shooting day, and almost every day we ran into overtime. The film was more of a marathon than it was a sprint.
At the end of the shooting, Sigourney gave me a silver frame that says "To Carrie" from Love Sigourney, and I have a really nice picture of us, and I have it in my room, and we just were kind of buddies, which is kind of weird to think that a 9-10-year-old and a grown adult were that close of friends, but she was almost like a surrogate mom, I guess.